summer nights, dancing shadows.
Are your see-in-the-dark glasses in order, Meanie Miny Mo?
You bet they sure are. Ready to go.
You came for me to follow, and we kissed on distant shores. Long, quiet hours of play, sounds of tomorrow from yesterday.
Get them.
Love came.
But you said they couldn't get away, Catwoman.
And yet they did. And so will we.
Can't see Batman. Neither can I, Robin. But then again, neither can they.
Oh, yes, we can. Cats can always see in the dark, especially with these glasses. Come on, kittens. We've done it.
Let's go after the Batman. No, Robin. I'm afraid it's too late. We must stay here and restore order. With 5,000 screaming teenagers, someone is liable to get hurt. Citizens!
Hi there, Plastic. Congratulations on 900 shows. And what do you know? Yesterday's gone, right? Love you all the summer through. I thought I'd found my dream in you. For me, you were the one. But that was yesterday. And yesterday's gone. There you are.
That was fantastic. Now, you know, we've just opened up the Plastic EP show with our very special guest, VIP, Jeremy Clyde. Now, Jeremy, I want to go back into 1964, just before Batman, right? Now, the great thing is you're on the Dick Van Dyke show, then you're on the Paddy Duke show, and then you're on the Batman show, 2 episodes, and you lose your voice. I'm just saying anybody with a British accent at that time in Hollywood was gold. Seriously, anybody had the British accent, and especially if you could sing and play guitar like yourself and Chad. That's the golden age. I mean, that's even before the Monkees, you know, before Davy Jones.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And I'll tell you, while we're on the Monkees, we did, Chad and I did an episode of something called Laredo.
Yep.
Which was, and the idea was to have that and make that a spin-off. And we would then go on with our own show. We were playing 2 actors in the Old West who'd been abandoned by the actor manager, left with 2 British guys in the Old West who left with a trunk full of props and clothes, and that was all. And now we had to make our way. And did the episode, people liked it very much, and then the executives decided that actually there was this other show called The Monkees, and they went with that instead. So there you are.
Laredo was a very big show here in Australia on TV. We had black and white TV right up to 1974. So that's amazing. I just want to introduce you now to Nigel Pearce.
Hi there. Good day to you, Jeremy. Lovely to talk to you.
Good day to you, Nigel, indeed. Oh, there you are. Hello.
I'm here. I'm here. And I'm the one with the blue sky behind me, not the colour background like Plastic
I
has.
was going to say an aeroplane by the look of it, but hey.
There you go.
That's right.
Wow.
I live in North Norfolk, near Cromer. And I work for 2 or 3 radio stations, and I have to say, very happily, I play a lot of your stuff because I actually think it's wonderful.
Thank you.
And I love your version of Early Morning Rain. I think that is so unusual.
There we are. Yes, my God, I'd forgotten about that. But then, hey, I've forgotten a lot.
I think we've all done that, Jeremy.
Yeah, indeed. Just wanted to say, that was the thing about the Monkees. Just happened that, the Monkees got it and we didn't. But actually, you're absolutely right. The thing was that both Chad and I had an acting background, myself more than Chad, but he could handle some dialogue and things. And therefore, we were the go-to guys for if anybody wanted a sort of British invasion joke. And it wasn't known as the British invasion then. That came later. we were the go-to guys because we could stand up and deliver, and we lived, and that's the point, we were living in LA. So we were around the corner, and there we were, and that's why we picked up all these shows. And the thing about Batman was that in Batman, we were actually Chad and Jeremy, which was a huge step up, because up until then, we'd been sort of, we were Fred and Ernie of the Redcoats, and we were Nigel and Patrick.
That's right. The Paddy Duke show.
Yeah.
Now, that's fantastic, but I've got to tell you, you've got to go through this because you're embedded in pop culture here in Australia, right? As I said, from the Paddy Duke show, but more Batman. So if you can tell me how you guys got the role, what it was like doing that particular show with Batman and Robin and Catwoman, who takes your voice, go into that, because everybody wants the stuff that nobody knows.
I haven't got that many stories about Batman, except to say that, I mean, the gorgeous Julie Newmar, I mean, who paid no attention to me whatsoever, by the way. I mean, I was in love. So that was one. Adam West he's a lovely man. And I'll tell you a little thing about him. He ended up living around the corner from Chad up in Sun Valley, Idaho. And they would meet from time to time. I mean, this is where, 10, 15 years ago, they'd meet in the market, shopping. Hello, Adam, hi. And it's a great performance. He's a bit like Leslie Nielsen. He's got that dry, he's saying absolute rubbish and keeping it absolutely straight at the same time. It's a wonderful performance. I didn't get on hugely with Burt Ward. He seemed from another category, really. He didn't seem like an actor to me. And I later found out he went on and got into real estate and business and things. It was kind of extraordinary. I mean, the Batmobile that they had in the studio, which was obviously for in the Bat Cave, right, for the interiors, was actually a sort of old Thunderbird, T-Bird with sort of plastic fins added. I mean, it was the tackiest thing you've ever seen. It didn't look like, zoom at all. I mean, it was sort of held together with bits of old gaffer tape, It was great fun. And we had a lovely time there. I've got many more stories about the Dick Van Dyke Show, as it happens, because we spent, I don't know, I think it was because Batman was shot like a movie. So you go in, you do it scene by scene by scene. If, on the other hand, you're doing a sitcom, you're there for a full 5 days hanging out and making friends and rehearsing. And that's a sort of different experience because you get to know people much, much better.
Do you know, this is just amazing because you are in pop culture and every day you go out, just even mentioning Batman, I said, my generation, first generation fans of Batman, we live with these shows every day, even now. It brought so much happiness. And you got to understand, the Paddy Duke show was huge too, right? But
really,
believe me, we had black and white TV. And when these shows came on, that was your life. You used to run home from school, elementary school, which we call state school, of course, because we were under Commonwealth. And we come home and we watched Batman, and Batman was more thrilling than, of course, Paddy Duke. And that's embedded in our lives, in our culture here in Australia. That's something that you don't know. And when you're in that show, in the element, and it's never going away, you're part of the Batman show. It's like, how can I tell you? People from Batman that were 8 years old like myself, they aspire then to do things in life from people like yourselves. I mean, you and Chad and Jeremy singing in those great outfits on the show, and then your voice gets taken. I mean, who forgets that episode?
The dastardly plot, as it's called, right? She's stolen our voices, and she puts them in a box, and then she's going to hold the British government to ransom. Yeah. And the British government refuses to pay up, by the way. There's a line from, I think, the guy who was playing the ambassador. Not a penny for those blighters. They don't write them like that anymore. Plastic.
You got to understand, when you guys went back to the UK after being in the US, you guys are heroes. I mean, as I said to you, that is the golden age of the TV. If you had a British accent, right up to Davy Jones in the Monkees, right? You're gold. Yeah. In Hollywood, you were gold.
But let me tell you something else. We actually, at the time, we were slightly put down by other musicians for doing those shows. I mean, Dick Van Dyke, Batman, Patty Duke, and Lorraine, because we weren't seen to be serious musicians. And everybody else was getting very serious and psychedelic at this point and making concept albums that we were wandering about in Batman. Things have changed. It's very interesting what time does.
You got more credence than anyone by doing those shows, because you're going to be remembered for that. That's like going to see the cinema Terry Thomas. Every movie Terry Thomas was in, right? They never forget that British accent. They never forget the movies. It's the same with you guys. You know, they want to be psychedelic. They want to be this. I mean, you're one of the pioneers, right, for folk pop from there, 1964. It's amazing. Your songs blow my mind. All of them. No one has got that feel.
Goodness, thank you, man. I'm touched. What can I say? It's
well,
been lovely.
I'm a fan. When you're 8, 9 years old, you can analyze and go back. And remember, you should actually sit down and write a book about Chad and Jeremy and then go into all these things that you did, like Batman, the Patty Duke Show, Dick Van Dyke, what it was like being someone that's British in the US at that time, right? From when you arrived. When did you arrive in the US?
We arrived early 64. We had been putting out records in June 63. We recorded Yesterday's Gone. What happened then, we was just talk about right place, right time, because the Beatles hit in America, and then suddenly all the American record companies rushed to England, to Liverpool and Manchester and London, all looking for acts. And we had a hit, a small hit with Yesterday's Gone in England. And so we were absolutely in prime position. And actually, we'd asked my old pal, Peter Asher of Peter and Gordon, we'd left our little gig, a lunchtime gig at a place called Tina's Bar at the time. And this was in 63 to go, because we'd been signed by John Barry, the great film music composer, James Bond and all that. And they said at the bar, oh, that's a shame. It was going so well, you know. Do you know anybody else can do this? I said, yes, I'll ask my old pal Peter with his mate Gordon, they're over at the Pickwick Club, whether they'd like the gig. And they did. And within the year, we were all in the charts and nobody could work out which was which, because one had glasses and one didn't, and one was taller and one was, you know, it's just a strange business. It was a sort of wind that came through London and swept us all up, you know?
Do you know Austin Powers is based on Peter Asher, don't you?
He said, listen, Peter and I are doing shows now, and that's one of the clips that he uses in the show. And I tell all the stories. We show clips from Batman, we show clips from Dick Van Dyke and so on. And it's a great show. And it's kind of extraordinary because both our partners have left, you know, Gordon and Chad now. And it's an obvious thing to do. And it's very popular. We're selling out.
I find your records, and I say records not because I'm old, because they're a record of what you did. I can instantly pick out your style as opposed to Peter and Gordon's. I think that although they're two people, the styles similar in some ways, they're also completely different. That's why I said to you, I love your version of Early Morning Rain and Summer Dream and things like that, because it's not because they're wistful and gentle, but they're intricate. The vocal style and your harmonization style on those songs was absolutely wonderful. And it's a sound that is truly 60s. Simon and Garfunkel did an awful lot. Peter and Gordon were exactly the same. And I don't know what Plastic has said to you, but I am a Beatles historian. And, you know, you do have that link with the Beatles. And I'm very pleased to hear that Peter is doing well, because obviously I know a fair bit about the time when he was at Apple with James Taylor. So the thing is, but I never think of your records, nothing but important enough to catch a moment in time. And that to me is the most important. They are 60s because you were in America making those hit records. You've left a mark on the landscape, which is indelible. And I think, you know, we are very, very happy to have that.
Well, that's extraordinary. You should say that. I mean, thank you for everything you said. At that point, I'm going to give a quick shout out to Chad. Hi, Chad. Because he was the harmony king. I mean, he was a very highly trained musician. He wrote, not only Right Yesterday's Gone, he scored it as well. And to John Barry's huge credit, Chad produced the sheets, you know, here's the violin parts, here's the violin part, all the whole thing, orchestra. And John looked at it and said, great, yeah, we'll do that. And which was, you know, an extraordinary, generous thing to say with the first record, you know, to actually sort of allow us to do that. But Chad's gift with harmony, which I haven't got, I mean, I can do a bit, but I don't hear it the way he hears it. And it's one of the things when I'm working on my own stuff, because I put out I've got a Facebook page post I do every week. And I've been putting out my own, all the songs that actually got left behind, you know, and I've been doing that. And I keep wanting to sort of dial up Chad and say, how do I do this harmony? Because that's where I'm in trouble. I can do everything else, but I haven't got his gift for that. Anyway, thank you for what you said.
Trees swaying in the summer breeze, showing off their silver leaves as we walked by. Soft kisses on a summer's day, laughing all our cares away, just you and I. Sweet, sleepy warmth of summer nights, gazing at the distant lights in the starry sky. They say that all good things must end someday. Autumn leaves must fall. But don't you know that it hurts me so to say goodbye to you? Wish you didn't have to go. No, 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 no. And when the rain beats against my window pane, I'll think of summer days again and dream of you. They say that all good things must end someday. Autumn leaves must fall. But don't you know that it hurts me so to say goodbye to you? Wish you didn't have to go. No, 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 no. And when the rain beats against my window pane, I'll think of summer days again and dream of you. And dream of you.
I went to YouTube and I saw your last performance with Chad. And you know what amazed me? Right, the lady introduced you on the show, The American Program, and you had, I think, a white guitar.
Yeah, maybe.
Do you remember it or not?
No.
Because a beautiful woman came out and said, had 1964 behind you, and you did one of your early songs.
And in 1964, we first heard of two guys who would go on to become one of soft rock's most famous duos. Their names are Chad Stewart and Jeremy Clyde. And the song they're about to sing still sounds as good as it did back in 1964. Performing their classic hit, A Summer Song, here are Chad and Jeremy.
Trees swaying in the summer breeze, showing off their silver leaves as we walked by. Soft kisses on a summer's day, laughing all our cares away, just you and I.
Now, what amazed me is when you played, the same voices that you sang in 64, the same harmonies were there. I could not believe it. The voices had not changed. That's the point I'm trying
Not
to say.
changed. No, we were very, very lucky. I've been very, very lucky. I've hung on to my voice, and it's just luck. And Chad did the same. He could still hit the notes. In fact, I just played rather badly. A bit of yesterday's gone to you. And the story is that we are the only act who actually put the hit up a key. Because, I mean, they normally, as you get older, you put it down, 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 down. I can name the names. We won't go there. When Chad and I started working together again in the 2000s, we thought, no, it's too low. So we bunged it up a bit. Only right now, at my advanced stage, have I put it back to the original key. So there you are. Because Chad isn't there to hit the high notes for me. So there you are. Anyway.
When you look back at your records, because that's where I'm coming from, I know you're talking about Batman and everything else, and if I've got a bit enough time, I'll come on to that. But when you look back at your records, are you somewhat then overtly overcritical? They give a moment of solemnity. They give a moment of calm. They just equalize out all the cacophony that goes around with modern music and music from the 80s. And they stand very well. And I think you need to be aware of this because you, as I say, I picked on your harmonization, and I'm glad you did as well, because I saw something succinctly different between you and Peter and Gordon. Yes, you are both immensely popular. And I think it's all to the credit that those records stand as a remarkable, as I say, point and paint spot on the landscape, because they're not to be taken away, they're to be cherished. And I tell you, believe me, the listeners to my shows will always comment that you have made and left us with some beautiful records, and that is why your version of Early Morning Rain came up, because I've got that about 10 times, but I still think that your version is different and it's the best. So take that as a compliment.
Thank you, Nigel. The answer is, of course, that I am critical. Both Chad and I were immensely critical. Early work is tricky for anybody, you know, actors, you know, whoever you. The thing about the blend was that when I met Chad at the Central School of Speech and Drama. I was starting my second year, and people knew that I played, you know, sort of some folky chords and would sing at the drop of a hat, right? But I couldn't find anybody to work with, really. And then at the beginning of the second year, somebody came up to me and said, "The guy you're looking for has just arrived." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, he's a musician and he can play all these instruments and everything." I said, "Right, well, take me to this genius, right?" And enter Chad. And I never forget, absolutely clear as day, can remember exactly the moment. And then he put out a guitar and sang, and I went, "Oh my goodness, oh my goodness!" And then he went to the piano and played I'll tell you what, he played "Bad Penny Blues" by Humphrey Littleton, boogied away. I mean, unbelievable. And then what we would do was there was, and there may be still, I'm sure is, at the back of the Central School of Speech and Drama, there's a sort of service staircase, which goes like it's not circular, but it goes up and up and up and up and up, and it's all concrete. And we would sit at the bottom of that staircase, playing two guitars and singing in harmony. And the sound, but the echo was so amazing. It was like singing in a bathroom, you know, that was that one. And the blend was so incredible. And listening back to some of the blends, we just become one voice and then split into two and then come one again. It's like double tracking almost. And it is kind of exceptional. And that blend remained, always did. And it always sort of knocked us out every time we met. And we wanted to work together lots. But I mean, I have had an acting career, particularly over in England. And Chad was living elsewhere. And, you know, somebody had to pay us to get together. That was tended to, you know, make it a little less than we would want. There we are, anyway.
Now, being in the USA at that time in the early 60s, as compared to the people in the UK, did you love the food, the music, the atmosphere, the go when you went to New York? How it was crazy? What was it like? Like the Beatles had been there and the Beatles had left, but you're there now and you're living there. So how great is that in that golden age?
Two things. First of all, we were programmed to love America because America was where it was at. I mean, that was where Elvis had come from. That's where Chuck Berry had come from. That's where all the folk music and the blues and the this and the that and the fins on the cars, and they were rich and glamorous. So that was one. The second thing is that we were in fact the first act of the British invasion, as it was later called, to arrive on the West Coast. Now, we didn't know this at the time, but we had been, there was a rival show to the Ed Sullivan, which was East Coast, New York, and that was called the Hollywood Palace Show. And we were booked to be on the Hollywood Palace Show. And we got on the airplane and we thought we were just going to do a show in America, all very exciting and everything. But when the plane arrived at LAX, they said to us, the crew said, "Oh no, you've got to wait behind because there's a bit of a reception." Bit of a reception, okay, right. So we, as we got off the airplane, it turned into a hard day's night, basically. I mean, there were girls everywhere screaming. I've never seen, because the radio stations, and I think it was KFWB, had been pumping out, "They're coming, the boys are coming. One day, the boys are coming, 24 hours, 18 hours before the boys come." I mean, that kind of stuff, right? And we walked into this insanity, and we'd seen a bit of this because we'd had hit record, we'd been, mobbed in England a bit and all that, and we'd seen all that. We had never seen anything like this. This was completely, and then we were sort of ushered, I mean, no question of custom, straight through, no nonsense. And we then into the limo with the guys from the label, right? And off we go. And a driver, again, limo driver, completely unused to what was about to happen, which was that we were escorted down the freeway into LA proper, into Beverly Hills, actually, by screaming girls in cars filled with overexcited young women who were trying to reach out and actually touch our car while driving along at 60 miles an hour, right? And sort of cutting in front. And the guys from the label, the chauffeur, was completely overwhelmed. I mean, what is it? They were terrified. They were white with fear. We get to the Beverly Wilshire Hotel, very swanky. And there's a sort of place where you can pull in off the pavement. And I was actually, about a year ago, I went and stood outside to remind myself that I got this right, the geography. And it's all as it is. You pull off the pavement, and then there's a big wide entrance of the Beverly Wilshire Hotel. The car pulls in at the entrance. Meanwhile, our limo. Then other cars are up on the pavement now on either side, right? Screaming. The guys said, "Run for it. We'll held them back," something. So we run for it, except through the doors of the Beverly Wilshire Hotel, completely blocking it, is a full-on wedding party. A bride, groom, mothers, flowers, the lot. And we went straight through them. We absolutely trashed this wedding party, followed by screaming girls. At which point, I mean, I look back, does this actually happen? And at which point the security from the Beverly Wilshire got stuck in, and that was okay. Everything calmed down. And when we got up to the rooms, suite, I guess, there was a laundry basket, and out of the laundry basket pops a girl. I mean, it's just, it was insane. And the question is, and I've often, one of these days, I've put this out there a few times, and I've asked the question, and that is, did anybody know what happened to that marriage? Did we ruin their big day? Or was it the greatest thing that ever happened? My God, and an astonishing thing happened. I mean, did the marriage survive? There's the question. Anyway, I leave it at that.
You were experiencing Chad and Jeremy mania, like the Beatles, and that is the greatest thing you can have. Who has that?
Okay, fair enough. I mean, I didn't realize myself, honestly, that you had that experience. I shall remember it now forever. And we're doing something here because, as I say, of the Beatles, they changed so much. They found a recording yesterday that had never been issued before of the Beatles at a concert in 1963.
Really?
And never been used before. And it's before the adulation became hysteria. So you can actually hear the quality of the sound that they played. Now, they played in Norwich 60 years ago next month, only once. And I'm doing a special day on my radio program. But the point I'm trying to say is, do you feel then you were pioneers for the Beatles since you got there first? Or do you really think that what happened to the Beatles helped and moved your career immensely in the Americas?
The latter. I mean, without the Beatles, none of this would have happened. We were swept up in this wave of Anglo-mania. I mean, the British sound was suddenly the hottest thing. We were absolutely in the right place at the right time. We, you know, if you'd had a hit, I mean, for example, I don't know, Swinging Blue Jeans or...
Herman's the best example.
Very good example, exactly. And we just got swept up in that. We were a little sort of folky duo-ish. I mean, we weren't the beat sound that they wanted. There was actually a moment, there was you may remember this, Nigel, there was a program on British television called Jukebox Jury. And Jane Asher, Peter's sister, who I've known very well for a long time, she was often on it. Anyway, what you would have was you would have a panel of 4 celebrities, and they play 30 seconds of a record, and then they say, hey, panel, is it going to be a hit or a miss? And sometimes, in order to spice it up a bit, they'd have the acts backstage waiting to find out what the verdict was, right? And in this case, they had Chad. I don't know how I got out of this, but I did. So Chad is sitting there, miserable, waiting to see whether he's going to be a hit or a miss. And on the panel that day was Ringo. And so, hey, panel, that was Chad and Jeremy as a summer song. This is a summer song. We couldn't follow up Yesterday's Gone in England. We tried. And so now they're trying a summer song, which later goes on, as you know, to be a huge hit in America. And I said, what do you think? Is that going to be a hit or a miss? And they all go miss. All of them, including Ringo. Chad is miserable backstage. I mean, he's downcast. And then Ringo says, do you know something? He said, they're nice lads. It's a bit soft for England, but it might be a very big hit in America. And that's the truth. So there you are. Ringo called it.
Oh, even better. I just want to thank you so much, Jeremy, from the bottom of my heart. You don't know how important you are to Australian culture through the TV shows, growing up. And I'll be honest with you, Chad and yourself, you're heroes to me musically, and being on the TV and being especially on the Batman show. I can't thank you enough. I can't give you enough praise. And I can't tell you how much the love of Plastic EP goes out to you and Chad, in all seriousness. And you're still great. Carry on the legacy.
I would echo that apart from saying goodbye. But please, Jeremy, take those good thoughts with you from what I've said to you about our feelings on your records. You put down an indelible mark on the landscape. And it is true to this day that when I do my 60s shows or whatever, you are a true hallmark of quality. And I think that, if anything, over the years has been underestimated.
Thanks, man. I'm really grateful, Nigel. Thank you for saying that.
The greatest songs make you happy, and those are evergreen, the greatest songs. And you are a music legend. And I'll be the first to say it, and I'm not the only one, because the real love of the people comes through now. Whatever is 64 has come around now in 2023. You're on top of the tree. I have no doubt. It just comes out without even trying. Greatness comes out. You know, I just interviewed John Sebastian from the Loving Spoonful, the most humble guy in the world. They wanted him for the Monkeys. He didn't want to be part of it. He goes, they were the Monkeys. But musically, he put out great music, and he's just so humble. And I'm telling you, you two were the greatest looking guys in 64. I'm telling you, as a duo, it is nothing like it. I see it every day on the net. We love you, Jeremy, and I mean that sincerely.
Thanks, Plastic. I'm touched, really. Thank you.
Willow, weep for me. Willow, weep for me. Bend your branches green along the stream that runs to sea. Listen to my plea. Listen, willow, and weep for me. Gone my lover's dream, lovely summer's dream. Gone and left me here to weep my tears into the stream. Sad as I can be, hear me, willow, and weep for me. Whisper to the wind and say that love has sinned. Leave my heart a-breaking and making a moan. Murmur to the night to hide the starry light, so none will find me sighing and crying all alone. Weeping willow tree, weeping sympathy, bend your branches down along the ground and cover me. When the shadows fall, bend, oh willow, and weep for me.
I want to talk about Charles Rosenay's new book of the top 10 Beatle list. Go and get it. It's been released. Just type that in. The book of top 10 Beatle list by Charles Rosenay.